Test, test, test.
So we can probably go ahead and get started. We'll give everybody another minute or so to sit down. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today to get an update on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. All right. Thank you once again for being here this morning on Father's Day to get an update on our Immanuel Solar Project. We will start with an opening prayer and a reflection from Father Randy. Then I will go over some of the events of how we got here and update everybody on the status. Sorry, we have a complication. So once we finish with the status update, we will go over the financial support options. Doug John will do that, and then we'll take questions and try to answer any questions that you all have.
Good morning, everyone. So our senior warden, Catherine Haskin, asked me if I would say just a couple of words as well as saying an opening prayer of why I think this project is important. So right off the bat, 4 reasons come to mind. The first is probably the most obvious. It's an incredible opportunity to care for the creation God has given us and to generate hopefully upwards of 60% of our own power right here from the natural wealth of the sun. So that's pretty much the obvious one. The second is it's an opportunity to be fiscally prudent, to save on our electric bills. The third is hopefully it's an evangelistic opportunity. It's a witness to everyone who drives by that this matters to us, and it might just make some people looking for a church home think, I need to learn more about these people. But then the last one I want to name is it sprang up from the people. And it's very congruent with many of our, you might say, core values. So when something springs up like that, it's important for us to take notice and pay attention. So with those four things being named, let us pray. Thank you, Lord God, for the continual call to us, the continual honor given to us of being called stewards, for placing so much within our control and for our use, for our enjoyment. And we certainly include in that the stewardship of creation. Thank you for all who have worked so hard already on this project, for those who have contributed, for those who have asked challenging questions, for the work of the original committee, the vestry, the vendors with whom we've worked. May it all be to your honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So, why are we here? And can you hear me all right now? We're here today because we are called to care for God's creation, to be the best stewards we can be of this fragile earth, our island home, to act on behalf of those most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, and to act for our children and for their children. Our solar project is a practical, hopeful response to what we believe is the call to be good stewards of the creation. So we didn't get here just overnight. The work that we're doing now on our solar project builds on previous work that Immanuel on the Hill has done to address our energy consumption. Some of the projects that we have done in the past include adding insulation to Zabriskie Chapel and to the parish hall. You can go up in the rafters of this building, up in the attic, and look at the spray foam insulation that was installed in 2008, if you would like to do that. We also replaced the windows in the lower level and in this building back in 2008 with excellent energy efficient windows. We installed a more energy efficient chiller. We put in LED lighting and we installed motion sensor lighting in the classrooms and in the restrooms. And we repaired and sealed the windows in the narthex to limit air seepage. So the solar project is the next logical step in reducing our carbon footprint. So when we started talking about solar, we thought, well, where will we put the solar panels? And one of the options was installing a ground-mounted system. So that would have been a system of racks that are on the ground somewhere on the property, and the solar panels would lay on the racks. Another option would have been to use our parking lot and to create a structure over the parking lot, put the solar panels on the structure, and then cars would park under the structure. So that was also a possibility. But when we spoke with the vendors, they advised us that really the best place to start, the place where we would probably get the most bang for the buck, was on our rooftop. So that's where we're starting. So we are going to maximize the use of the rooftop for the chapel and the parish hall. And we want to maximize the rooftop so that we can generate as much clean, sustainable power as possible over the next 25 years. So the plan is to install 191 445 watt solar PV panels to maximize the power that we can generate. Factors that impact production include shade, the time of the year, and we know that we have a lot of trees. We love our trees. We don't want to cut down any healthy trees. But we do know that the trees, particularly on the south-facing side of the building, do cast shadows on the roof. So that's another reason that we wanted to have the solar panels on all four roofs so that we can maximize the production even when we have times of shading. We also know that solar panels generate the most power in the late spring and summer and early fall months. So we will probably be installing later this year, maybe more towards, you know, the November timeframe. So we know that when we initially install, um, we won't be at the peak part of the year for power generation, but we certainly have the spring and the summer to look forward to. So all of this will save us money as well, but our primary motivations for this project are for creation care. So this gives you an idea of what our solar panels will look like. So as I mentioned, they will be on the roof of the chapel and the parish hall. The company that we have selected is to do the work is Sustainable Energy Systems. It's a very reputable solar company based in Frederick, Maryland. We estimate that we will be able to generate 65,000 kilowatt hours per year, and that will save us approximately $6,500 per year on our Dominion electricity bill. So what does this mean for the environment? So generating 65,000 kilowatt hours a year is the equivalent of taking 10.5 gas-driven vehicles off of the road every year. It's also the equivalent of not using over 5,000 gallons of gasoline every year. It's the equivalent of almost 9 homes electric power not being used. But more importantly, as Father Randy mentioned, we become witnesses to what we can do to lower our carbon emissions, to creation stewardship. We show everybody who comes here and who drives by that we are walking the walk. We're doing something concrete to reduce our carbon footprint, as well as to save money, and money of which can be used for other church priorities. So in order to know what we might save, we first had to determine what we were spending. So pre-pandemic, the last 12 months before the pandemic, between March 2019 and February 2020, we used 108,800 kilowatt hours. And that cost us $10,870 in our Dominion electric bills. Now, our solar vendor, SES, estimates that the solar PVs that they install will cover 60% of our annual electricity use. And that should save us 65,500 kilowatt hours every year at a cost savings of approximately $6,500 a year. So I'll just now go through a few highlights of how we got here, what the milestones along our solar journey. So we first started looking at solar in 2019. We learned about a company called Ipsen Solar. It was one of 2 companies that was recommended by Solarize Alexandria and also the Local Energy Alliance Program, or LEAP, in Alexandria. They had vetted different solar vendors and recommended Ipsen Solar to us at that time. And then it turned out that Ipsen had also done the solar installation for Our Lady Queen of Peace in Arlington. So in early 2020, Ipsen came out and did a on-site survey. They looked at the roof. They went up in the rafters of this room of the parish hall. They looked at the electrical equipment and determined that Immanuel on the Hill was a good fit to host solar panels. They also looked at the rectory. However, because of the configuration of the rectory roof, they determined that that probably wasn't the best place to put solar panels. We also started talking with Virginia Theological Seminary in early 2020 with the possibility of doing some kind of a joint project, a partnership with to install solar. And we were in talks with BTS when the pandemic struck, and we all got locked down, and we don't need to go through that. but meanwhile, the solar committee continued to look at different funding options, and Doug John will go through some of those when he talks about the funding. Um, we continue to think about the size and scope of the project, and determined that we wanted to generate as much power as we reasonably could. Then wisely, the vestry asked us to put the solar project on hold. This was probably May or June of the last year, until we got to the end of the year and we knew how things panned out for the pumpkin patch and also for our stewardship campaign. So, and that was a good move. We really appreciate that, because I think in the long run, it has helped move us ahead more quickly this year. So fast forward to this year, 2021. At the beginning of the year, we met again with BTS, and by then they had decided to self-fund a small solar project. So there really wasn't an opportunity to partner with them at this time. But meanwhile, the 2020 vestry had approved a quiet, limited scope exploration of parishioners to assess the potential interest in supporting the solar project. The 2021 vestry then approved actual outreach to those parishioners who had previously expressed interest, to find out how much they might be willing to donate, and then also the timing of the donations. And then most importantly, the vestry wisely asked the solar committee to take a couple of other bids. And this was a really good move. And I want to have a shout out to Christy Kubica Hovis, who connected us with Sustainable Energy Systems and Nova Solar. So by March or April, we had 3 bids from Ipsen, from Sustainable Energy Systems, and from Nova Solar. We reviewed those bids, and then based on parishioner funding and our due diligence, the vestry voted to accept the final recommendation from the Buildings and Grounds Committee as to which of the 3 bids to select. This approval was contingent on the proposal being funded separately from the annual 2021 budget, and also that the size and scope of the project remain approximately as it had been presented. So last month in May, the Building and Grounds Committee recommended moving forward with a bid from SES, and the vestry accepted that recommendation and approved the motion to move forward with the SES contract. So then on May 19th, the Building and Grounds Committee, led by Doug Henry, met with the SES representative to go over the contract, ask questions, discuss the fine points of the contract. There were some negotiations back and forth, and within the last couple of weeks, both SES and Immanuel signed the contract, and we're now looking at doing a few minor roof repairs. I think I'm not sure if the roof inspection has already happened. Okay, I'm getting a yes on that. We are going to move forward with our solar project. So I will now turn it over to.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Doug John. I'm a small player in this play. I joined the team on the late side, the real pioneers and the people that deserve the ultimate recognition of Julie Bruns and Doug Henry for getting it started, doing the heavy lifting. Again, add my shout out to Christy. I think Christy's background expertise in this area were very essential to putting us in touch with SES and guiding us through the more recent phase of the process. And lastly, to Daryl Wilson and Catherine Haskin, who were the overall pilots of this ship. And I think their leadership has really been very well applied, to the best interest of this church. So again, I came on in the third quarter of last year, more than a year into the project. By then, we had had the feasibility study from Ipsen. Looked like we were a good candidate. And I was brought in for two reasons. One was to help with the legal review of the contract, if and when we had one. And second, to see what I could do to help with the funding, give some advice on funding. We looked at three possibilities for raising money for the project. Number one was to engage a developer of solar power to go up on the roof, put the panels in, generate the power, sell us the power under a long-term contract. And the pricing generally would be something on the order of a 5 or 10% discount from the Dominion Energy price in a given month. We're a small operator. We're larger than residential, but still small for commercial. So we weren't sure how much success we'd have with that approach. The second approach was to form an LLC, a limited liability company made up of shareholders that are members of this parish, to fund it up front, own the company, take the investment tax credits, which would come from this form of project, and set that company up to operate and sell the power at either no cost or a nominal fee to the church. And the third was the old-fashioned Immanuel way of doing it ourselves, basically through charitable deductions, charitable donations, and then taking the tax deductions, but basically forming a campaign to raise the money the way we've done in the past for certain projects. And again, I have a fair amount of experience in this, having been involved in stewardship for many years, so I volunteered to see what we could do about the third approach. And what I did with the blessing of the vestry was to begin a quiet campaign. This goes back to early 2021, where I sent emails out to a number of people. Of course, we knew the vestry was aware of this. We figured a lot of them would be interested in joining. We had the committee, and we were all going to participate. Committee, Jamie Conrad, Julie, Doug, and I were the committee. But because of all these years of fundraising, I have a kind of a sense of, where the old reliables are. So I put together a list of about 42 people and families, and I sent out an email. And I said, we're thinking about doing this. We have a bid from Ipsen that's in the range of $177,000. It might have been higher at that point, actually, but it was between 175 and 200. And I think we can do this, but I want to see if you all would be willing to do it too. And I set a date for people to respond, and the responses came in one by one by one. People saying, we're willing to participate. That's all I wanted to know up front. Do we have enough interest in the project to go forward, take the next step? Took back to the vestry my report, and I said of the 40-some feelers I sent out, about 35 people have come back positive. I think that's a very good sign. Vestry cogitated on that, and they gave me permission to send out the second letter, which was to ask specifically what people would donate. As it turns out, the word was getting around, and I was being approached by other people not on my list who said, I want him too. So by the time all was said and done, we had 37 pledges, actual pledges, totaling $177,800. The Ipsen bid had been $177,859, so we were still 59 short, but I figured we could make that up. Now, as we were doing this, as I said, Christie had gotten us involved with other bidders, and SES came in with the bid we found to be most attractive. Their bid is $163. Fewer panels, but we get that 65% offset, or 60 to 65% offset of what we would have to buy from Dominion. So it's very encouraging. And then we looked at other add-ons. We have probably a $4,000 add-on for squirrel guards, which we know are essential to protect the wiring up there. We're going to do we had our roof guys go up and take a look. We need to do some roof repair, some tree trimming. And there's one tree, I think it's behind this window, behind me, that has to come down anyway. It's in the wrong place, and it's not doing well, and it'll open up some more roof space for panels. So that's one that I think we just time it to be convenient for us, but what probably have to come down anyhow. Total cost of the packages we're now determining is in the $195,000 to $197,000 range. There's still the possibility of an add-on here or an adjustment there. So what we're going to do, the vestry has decided this project will go. We have $177,800 committed. One of our parishioners has actually proposed a $10,000 matching grant. I'm including those $10,000 in the $177,800. This person has said if we can raise at least $10,000 more from the larger parish, not the ones that have already committed, then this person will match that dollar for dollar up to $10,000, which will put us at $187 roughly. Just a little stone's throw from the goal. And I am certain, in fact, I've had other parishioners say we're holding back our pledges to meet that match. And I can't imagine Immanuel Church on the Hill, when we put the word out to the larger parish, will not. They'll answer the call. I have no doubt we're going to raise the money. Now, the payment's going to work this way. The SES contract has us, we've already put down $3,000. That's the down payment. When 30 days before they begin work, they want us to pay $96,000. That's 60% roughly of what's left. And then when they finish the work, we'll pay the additional amount of 60-some thousand dollars to get to the total of the 163. We have a parishioner who has come forward and said we will support this in another way, and that is we'll provide an interest-free loan to be sure that when the money is needed to pay SES, the money will be there to pay SES. And as the pledges come in to the church in 2021 and 2022, it's a 2-year campaign, the money will then be repaid to that lender. There's no interest on the float. Basically, it's a way to get this project done without fear that we may be short a few dollars here and there. So at the end of the day, we're looking at, here's the timing. We're looking very likely, we were hoping to have the panels put in September. The idea of having a pumpkin season with panels on the roof, to me, was a wonderful vision. It's more likely they'll go into November, but we still have to be ready with the funding to catch them in September if they can do it then. Depends on their schedule, where we are in line. So what I've done is to create a form. Actually, it's been created by the vestry with a little input from me. And I've sent this out to the 37 benefactors that have been identified thus far. It explains a lot of what I've told you, but it's designed to be sent back to the church, filled in to show, confirm the amount of the pledge of each person and when the payment would come. Ideally, we want the 2021 pledge in by July 31. That's 30 days ahead of September 1. That way, if they can begin work in September, they'll have their the money in hand for that. And then, but if folks can't make their pledges by then, if they can't really provide the money, then later in the year is fine. The no interest loan will cover us going forward. And then the 2021 pledges we're hoping could be in by July 31 of 2022 pledges by July 31 of 2022. So we are at a point, I think, from what I have discerned from my outreach efforts, of being able to say we can do it. And I think we've basically done it on paper. We have to do it now in 3 dimensions, but I'm so excited about being able to stand up here with Julie and Doug and Christy and Daryl and Catherine, all the other people who've worked on this in about 6 months. Out there, so followed shortly by panels on the roof. So congratulations to the great work you've done. If anybody would like, hasn't received one of these yet, would like it, let me know and I'll send it to you. I'm asking that these be returned, these forms, by June 30, so that Tom Houston, the treasurer, who will get these, will know what to expect. And by the way, the information is completely confidential. The only person who knows what each person is pledging is Tom Houston. I think that covers what I had to tell you. You want to come back up?
Yeah. So with that, if you want to believe in answered prayers, the fact that I was the reluctant AV lead today for this forum hour. So Jesus asked his disciples today, "What are you afraid of in the boat?" Me being the AV lead, it would be the answer to that. So all of you out there virtually, I hope this is working at home for you. Thanks to Doug and Julie for their creation of this, and Catherine Haskins, by the way, for and Doug Henry for the creation of this PowerPoint that we could share with all of you today. This has been quite a journey, and I've learned a lot about myself, about our vestry, and about this parish and the people in it. And they're very loving and kind, and how we loved each other to a really, I think, a great decision on this. And there were a lot of things, quote unquote, to be afraid of about the solar project and the roof and all these things. But we did it the right way, in my opinion, and we learned along the way, and I think we got to a really good outcome. So cheers to everyone for that. So with that, let's throw the door open for any sort of questions. I'm not guaranteeing you an answer. I'm just saying. Yes, John. That's a great question. So the question So the question for everyone out there that maybe couldn't hear is is the equipment that we're getting readily available? Is it in stock? And I will, because there's a lot of inflation right now with construction projects. I happen to work for a railroad. I can tell you the price of steel is through the roof, and that is during this time as economies start to come back online from the pandemic. The answer is yes. We actually got the panels we got. We were first in line for a set of panels that we needed more panels because they were lower wattage. Those got sold while we were negotiating our contract. So as Randy said to me, he goes, "Wow, this is kind of brutal." I go, "Yeah, it's listen, it's first come, first serve in this world." But they had additional panels already in inventory that were commercial grade panels, and they're higher wattage, which is why we need fewer panels. So they actually generate more electricity per panel. So they were already in a warehouse. They're there waiting on us. If we could get our roof and steeple improvements done quickly, we probably could get it installed before the pumpkin patch, but we just don't think we'll be ready. So we're giving ourselves that extra time to make sure we get the roof done, and all that does. Then we'll do as he said, the pumpkins, and then we'll put the panels on. So we'll bless pumpkins and then I guess solar panels in the fall. Great question. Can I go to Linda and then I'll go to Tom? 25 years. Our warranty for all of it is 25 years on the equipment. And to Randy's earlier point, we looked at this as a vestry too at certain times as, is this a good return on investment? But once we realized after Doug John went out and we saw that this was really a gift from parishioners here who cared deeply about creation care and that stewardship, it became less about what's your payoff on this, and then as to let's put our witness out into the world as to what we believe in as a church. And I came along on that journey as well, from looking at it from is this going to be an investment? It's not that. This is really about our witness in the world in terms of creation care. And look, the church is going to save $6,500 a year. That's money that the church can put back into outreach to the other things we care and love about, whatever those priorities are for future vestries to determine. That's a wonderful question. Tom? Yes. So once the panels go on the roof, we kind of own what's underneath that, right? But part of the contract is you need to do your due diligence, and you need to make sure that once we have repaired the roof and the roof is in good shape, anything they do up there to damage the roof, as soon as we notify them that we believe that it was whatever they did to damage the roof, they have to cover that damage. All right. So we're protected from that perspective. So that's why we had folks crawling around the roof the last 3 weeks to know every shingle that's out of place, every piece of flashing, all the stuff we need to do. And you saw in the budget that money is accounted for as a part of the total cost of the solar project. And the Buildings and Grounds Committee, led by Tom Kearns, felt very strongly that, and all of us did, that the solar project itself should bear the costs of getting the roof in tip-top shape. You have to realize, I think the roof is 8 years old. I think that's correct, Tom? Yeah, thank you. So the roof is 8 years old. The solar panels, we believe, will have a 25-year life expectancy. And your typical roof is around 25 years. So what we're doing is trying to make sure we do everything we can to extend the life of the roof so we don't have to take the panels off at some point and then repair the roof in the future, right? And one good thing about this is the panels, the part of the roof that they cover, they actually protect the shingles. Okay, they don't get hit by the sun. Damage is one of the biggest things that breaks down the type of shingles we have, asphalt shingles, and so they'll actually protect that part of the roof. And we're doing everything else with the steeple and other work that we want to do this summer, because it'll be a little bit more difficult, costly, and time-consuming to do roof work once you have panels up there, because you need to protect them and you got to do that. Does that answer the question? Okay. Yeah. I agree. Tom's making a point about the warranty. We were Doug Onley, Doug John, all of us, there were three, and yeah, Jamie Conrad, the three attorneys were questioning at great length the SES warranty on workmanship for the life of the panels, because it was very generous. But they stood behind it and they said, yeah, that's what it means. What it says on the paper is what it means. So, I mean, I think the bid process we went through what Julie and Doug were talking about in terms of being able to find SES as a potential bidder and then a winner of all the bids. The process of going through that, I think, was almost led by the Holy Spirit in a way. I really mean that. I really mean that. So, because it was, we felt like we were stuck in neutral for a little while, and Christy's good suggestions and ideas brought some life into this that led us to where we are today. Any other questions? Yes. Yes, we already own the panels. With a $3,000 check, it's been cashed. It was cashed when they counter executed the contract. I signed for us. No one had to hold the pen in my hand. I did it willingly. Then they yes, they executed I guess about a week ago, and so that they cashed the check too. So the check and the contract went together. Great point. So yes, they're really kind of waiting on us. I mean, they do have other jobs, okay, to do. So we really need to get the roof work going, and we've got some stuff. Tom is actively working on it. This is, like I said, a second full-time job for many of us. So we're going to get the roof going here probably in July and get the steeple work done, and then we'll be able to turn to them and make sure that we get on their schedule for installation, because they have a lot of other jobs they're working on. I think they said they had one crew. Is that right? To do this kind of work. So that crew gets scheduled, so they only work on one job at a time. Great question. Martha? You want to come? Sure. By all means.
Hi, so I'm Martha Shimkin. I'm on the vestry, and I just want to take a moment to thank Julie and Doug Henry and Doug and Tom and Catherine and Daryl and the Buildings and Grounds Committee. They worked so hard on this, and when they finally brought a proposal to the vestry, we were like, what? And we made them explain, meet, do extra meetings, go through proposals, find more proposals. And we did that because on the vestry, we know that we're responsible in the end. The vestry has the responsibility of the buildings and grounds and the fiduciary responsibility. And you guys just kept coming back with a great attitude. I just thought when Julie was up here saying, and it was really good, and I thought, there were times when they must have thought it wasn't really good. And they did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when something is presented to you that you don't initially think is a good idea, you realize that actually it is the very best idea. So that's what I would say about that.
And I would just say likewise, because I think when the vestry first heard it, we were like, I don't think we probably had the votes. And by doing that due diligence and getting Christy involved and really looking into this, the vestry still took it really seriously as we voted for this step by step. But we feel, I think I could say as a whole, that this is a good decision, and that we're proud of it, and that we're grateful. And we're grateful to all the people who are supporting it. So I just wanted to make sure I thanked you.
Yeah, my appreciation is extended to Martha and to Catherine as kind of co-vestry leads. We spent a lot of extra time in meetings on this with Father Randy. And again, like I said, I've learned and grown a lot in this journey. So thank you to Martha for your leadership. Very thoughtful, spiritual leadership. I think if there are no other questions, that may be the end of our forum today. And I appreciate you all for coming and giving some of your time and interest in this project. And we're going to try to do some more in terms of, I'll close with this, is that this isn't, once we install this isn't the end. We're going to actually monitor, we'll be able to monitor in real time what the panels are doing in terms of how much energy they create. We're going to try to create a static visual communications board to talk about the project and how we did it, the life of it, what it means. And we're going to try to involve some of the other aspects of our parish, the preschool and the children, and how they can learn about what solar panels are and how they work and all of that. So there's a lot of education and formation in all of this going forward. And if you're interested in being a part of that, reach out and let me know, and I'll get you in touch with Brooke and our communications team as we think about how we're going to put all that together. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.